And here's a little tip from me to you about when it works versus when it doesn't work. If it works on one platform or device, test it on another 5 at least. Hello, and welcome to the Creative Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. In the show, my guests and I explore how we can use creativity to do our best work and live our best lives. I talk with authors, musicians, actors, scientists, and others who are all pushing the envelope to live fully, creatively, and authentically. Listen in to get the scoop on how you can do it too. Hello, this is Isolde Trachtenberg, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the Creative Mindset Podcast. I want to talk about bug testing. So we're living in an age right now where many of us are doing all of our tech by ourselves. And I was a bug tester from way back when. When I first worked at the National Geographic Society, I was QA/QC for a lot of their products before I moved into more creative writing and development. But the thing that really struck me about doing the work is that you have to put yourself into the mind of a 6-year-old. In fact, that's how my husband and I started getting to know each other, because he got hired to do QA/QC on some of the products, and he can put himself into the mind of a 6-year-old better than most. So he was breaking the software we were developing right and left. Nowadays, there's Google, and we can Google or YouTube most things, right? So my best friend was having trouble with the seat of one of her commodes in her bathroom, and I didn't know how to fix it. My goodness, we could definitely go to YouTube, and there was a video talking about this exact kind of commode seat so that we could tighten it so that they could use it without trouble. So I have been racking my brain about how to do something to this podcast webpage, and I have been unable to. There are lots of helpful ideas, but none of them actually match what it is that I'm trying to do. So I'm finding myself in a position where I have to figure out and test everything. And this is my sort of long-winded way of saying that if you see weird goings-on on the podcast page, know that it's because I'm trying to give you a better experience. And yet, the only way to ultimately do this is to test it and see if it works. So you're going to have this weird little podcast episode that says that it's okay to bug test. If you don't have the answer right away, and Google isn't helping and YouTube isn't helping, Google is the top search engine in the world, YouTube is the second. It's the second biggest search engine in the entire world. So if they can't help you, sometimes you just have to, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go, okay, here's what I'm going to do here. I am going to make whatever changes I need to make, and then I'm going to test it. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, then I'm going to go back to the drawing board. And here's a little tip from me to you about when it works versus when it doesn't work. If it works on one platform or device, test it on another 5 at least, right? Just because it works on one of them doesn't mean it's going to be gung-ho to work on every single one. When I was doing bug testing for the National Geographic Society, we would do this where we'd have, these were a long time ago, early Macintoshes. You test it on one Macintosh and it would work great. And then you go, great, let's put it on a PC, and the whole thing would implode, right? So you want to be sure that you test it, have mobile response if you're doing website testing, make sure that it works on a phone as well as on a tablet, as well as on a web page on your laptop or on your computer or whatever. But also make sure that different browsers are going to handle it the way you want them to, because there will be times when you're thinking that you got it, you're set, and you don't have it. And then if you really want to get technical for web pages and things like that, different system versions might work with one and not work with others. So there's all sorts of stuff that you need to think about. And sometimes you want to throw your hands up and go, okay, I'm just going to hire somebody. But if you can't, these are things you need to pay attention to as you do this work. It's really important. And so when you look at this bug testing tech episode, you're gonna go, oh, that's what she was talking about. Because I'm having to test it to see if it's going to work. And if it doesn't, then you might see one or two other things happen that will show us what's what. Because when you're in a position to have to do this, you have to do it at some point. And sometimes you have to, in order to do the jigsaw puzzle up, you have to break it apart almost all the way to the beginning sometimes if you've done something wrong. Or I guess knitting is probably a better analogy. There are times when you're knitting, you've done everything right, and then you realize you're 3/4 of the way through a panel of a sweater, which I have done, and way like 40 rows below, you have a glaring error that's going to be emblazoned across the chest of whoever wears a sweater for all time. So you have to go and you have to rip out all the rows. And I encourage you to think of it as a learning opportunity rather than as stick the entire sweater into your garbage disposal and turn it on opportunity. Anyway, I wanted to give you this brief heads up. I want to also send you my love. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I hope you're also enjoying the stuff we're doing with the really amazing interviews. I'm going to have some great interviews with authors, musicians, composers, all sorts of people coming up soon. It's going to be fantastic. I'm very excited to bring those episodes to you. Until next time, this is Isolde Trachtenberg sending you all of my love. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. Today's episode was produced by Isolde Trachtenberg and is copyright 2020. Today's music was Kevin MacLeod's Ave Marimba, brought to you by Creative Commons License 3.0, and Summer Fashion by Alexander Shemaluev. As always, please remember this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future results, although we can always hope. Until next time, this is Isolde Trachtenberg, and I send you all of my love.